you so much, everyone, for joining. And Katrina, thank you mostly, of course, to you. Thank you very much for having this webinar, hosting this webinar with me. I'm very excited about today. My name is Caroline Rademaker. We've, of course, already met, but just for everyone joining the webinar. We're working at Templeton Partners for the last 3.5 years now, and really focusing on building a pool in the webinar branch, women in tech, and also going more in the AI field, in the security field, etc. So could we maybe start with you, Katrina? Could you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you, where do you work, and what are your drivers to actually join this webinar with me?
Yeah, super, Caroline. Happy to connect with you, and of course, happy to have the colleagues and people who are joining to the webinar. So actually, originally I come from Russia and Uzbekistan. I'm very international. I grew up in Russia, and actually there I started my journey with the Bosch company back that time in logistics area. So I do not come really from the classical, let's say, IT background. So I started in the logistics area and had many years working in the supply chain. So I really do have very good understanding how manufacturing works, how the logistic working. And back that time, many years ago, it was the first SAP implementation in Russia. And then I was asked whether I want to join this implementation. And it was that moment like, why not? Even though I didn't have the IT background, but we can learn, of course. And since I, of course, knew the business, it was a perfect opportunity for me. And that's how my journey with IT actually started. So nowadays I'm saying, I know SAP very well. The only thing that I cannot do the coding, but the rest is there. So, and basically from that moment onwards, I really, my life was linked to the IT with SAP implementation. Then afterwards, I moved to Germany. And I did a lot of global projects in the area of the purchasing, the finance, change management across the globe from Mexico to Malaysia for the Bosch, and going more and more IT, doing access management area. And the last now is going to be like more 7 years that I'm working in the area of privacy and data protection. And it was one of the moments where my also former boss called me like, look, would you like to consider this role? And I said back at that time, probably the topics of privacy and cyber were not so actually in the focus. However, I knew that it will come. And having, of course, my background in the business, and also I have a law degree in addition to that, which was a perfect combination back that time with GDPR implementation.
Absolutely,
because in the end of the day, you have to translate all this legal, whatever requirements to the business, which was, again, win-win situation for both. And that's how we end up in the area of privacy and cybersecurity, which I'm happy in, because I'm pretty confident the next 10 years I have a good job because it's more and more to come. Yeah, so and today I'm responsible for the privacy, and we call it information security or the cybersecurity at the Bosch Group. I'm located in Germany. This is where our headquarters is well, but of course we operate globally. I'm also married to Romanian, so I said we're a very international family. I have 2 daughters as well, so they're almost 7 and 3-year-old. And I think the interesting fact that we speak 4 languages at home.
Oh, wow.
So you can imagine it's a Russian, Romanian, English, and German. Sometimes it's a really fantastic combination. You start sentence with one language and finish with another one, but actually it works very, very well. So, and that's why, I know for me, the point of, building career, having the family nowadays, of course, it's something that you have to balance. You can balance that as well, especially if you are, women working in this technology. But I think today probably I'm also willing, and I would like to share a couple of my personal experience in terms of career, family, but I think we will probably discuss it a bit later.
Oh, absolutely. We've got a lot to discuss, and what a path you've made so far. The most interesting part in my eyes is also that you didn't have a focus on going into IT. It just happened like that, and by you being open to a change and actually wanting to develop and learn more, you took that path. So yeah, I take my hat off for that, because not a lot of people would actually be willing or dare to take that step. Could, just before we go into more about the real questions about the webinar, just a quick question on what, can you maybe go a little bit more into detail about your greatest obstacles so far and your highlights? Could you maybe give like some ideas of that?
That's a good question. Because I think Let me just think, because so
Of
many
course,
years,
of
more
course.
than 17 years with the company, because every day you face something. But if I look back, I think the biggest probably obstacles, that, I mean, now of course I can proudly speak about that, is when I moved to Germany, because I moved to Germany in the age of 23, 24. So I was already working in the company, and it was the point of establishing myself in Germany, because it was totally different culture, and me coming, relatively young. I have to say, East European woman coming to the Germany changed as well, but still it
Yeah.
was still a male predominant, very conservative. And I like the feminine style, with the makeup, with the high heels. And imagine me, whatever, 15, 16 years ago, coming from Russia, entering the office. I remember back that time I was wearing the fur. It was very famous in Russia. And this girl gonna teach us, gonna work with us. So even some colleagues didn't even say hi to me. So was quite a challenging, like really this acceptance phase. But was the learning, of course, like, do not charge a person how she or he looks. I mean, my style changed, I have to admit.
Of course.
No fur anymore, but still the feminine touch, it's there. But I think after some time, of course, once people start to work with you and they see that it's that you have something in your brain, so then of course this is how you start, to build your name, to build your expertise. So it took quite a while for me to adjust to the German way of working, to understand the cultural differences as well, how to build the partnership, how to build let's say the friends at work, maybe because in Germany there are very strict separation between the private and the business life. Even over the time, of course, you learn how to navigate, but was probably the biggest obstacle. And of course, building career, because I came from the expertises, and I mean nowadays I'm in a pretty high level. And of course, this is something that I am proud to say. What was my way was a lot of obstacles, also as a woman and etc. But in Russia we say, what does not kill us makes us stronger.
Yeah.
Right? So and that's something, probably the biggest obstacle. And another part was, I think, when I got my first child, because this is also was of course, and that's exactly what I took the role of the data protection officer in our company, because it was 2018. So I got my child. So I got the new job. It was the implementation of the law. There was nothing. I needed to build the whole area of data protection. And I was like, okay, what I'm gonna do that? What I'm gonna do? How I'm gonna combine that? That year was the most challenging for me, because I didn't know how I should act as a mom. How should I do it? Thanks God, I had support from my husband. We had the like daycare, etc. But that was the challenging. With the second child, it's easier. Once you know how to ride the bicycle, it's already okay. It's been there, done there. But was probably the biggest, this to challenge the obstacles, let's call this way, that I really needed to reshape the way I think, I act, as a woman, as a colleague, as a manager, leader, etc.
You're saying brilliant things, and I don't want to stay too long on this topic because we still have a lot to discuss. But just one last thing: if you could give 2 tips to any woman living at the moment, just before these obstacles hit, because just to give a personal example, I'm also a woman. I'm not a mom yet, saying yet because that's one of my biggest dreams. But it's also a very big obstacle in my head because I'm thinking, how? What 2 tips? Because you have, like you just described, you had your husband supporting you. If we don't have that, so I'm not saying you don't have a supportive husband, but what can I do myself? So what can you advise a woman? 2 tips to actually take those steps and not be afraid of the obstacles to come.
This is, every situation is individual, because
of course.
because in my case, it might work. Plus, you have different life constellation, because I didn't have any, parents to support, not from my side. So we alone here with my husband, because, he comes from Romania, I come from Russia, we live in Germany. So it's only both of us, right? So we have different, even the mindset constellation. But I do a lot of mentoring also for the women, but actually for the recently more men are coming to me. Interesting. The number one is, first of all, don't be afraid of that you can do that. You can. And I think it's important that somebody tells you that you can. I remember I was already on the 8th or 7th month of pregnancy, and I was joining one of the women, whatever, leadership meeting. And there was one lady from HR back that time, she was the president. And I asked her, the question, how can I combine it, And she's like, if you want to make the impact in the career and you really want, to have something, meaningful, all this 20-30% hours work will this part-time job will not work. And I was honestly shocked, because at the Bosch, we always said, okay, you can combine it, you can really, do flexible stuff and so on. But she kind of, and I was surprised to hear it from HR person, head of HR telling me that, okay, that doesn't work, And back that time, I kind of said, wow, this is so brutal, true. And I was surprised. But, that day she put in my head that it's possible. And she said, look, you have to define your intention. If you want career and you have a family, you have to give extra. And that day I decided, no matter what, I will return full time. So I stayed like 6 months, 6 to 7 months with my first daughter. And then I returned 100% to the job. And I think it's important that somebody tells you it's possible to do that. So I'm telling it's possible to do that, but you need to set for that. Of course, I'm not saying you need to have, supportive husband. You need to ensure that you have kindergarten, all this kind of stuff to arrange the life around that.
Of course,
this is number one. Believe that it's possible. It's challenging, especially first year, too, because first 2 years it's really challenging with the kid. The small one, afterwards it's easier. And another part is prepare it in advance. I meet a lot of women who are unhappy because once they're back from maternity leave, there's like, oh, I don't have a job, I don't know what to do, and so on. So this is at least also I met quite a good people who kind of advised me also back that time that prepare in advance, prepare before you leave, that you have a job once you're back.
Yeah.
Because
Smart.
in this case, you have a safe environment. I remember with this first child, because when I got the offer and I said, guys, I'm back only 6 months. You're going to wait me. They said, okay, we're going to wait you, So this is something that you need commitment from your bosses so that you have something. It doesn't mean you have to return to the same job, but prepare it in advance. In the same way with my second pregnancy. And I said, guys, I'm back in 6 months, but we agreed that I have this job. Okay, deal. So this will be the second advice. First, believe that it's possible, but it's challenging. You have to kind of be ready for that. And second, prepare the place where you return. And that's it.
Amazing. Great. Thank you so much for these 2 tips. I personally will be able to benefit from it. I hope other people as well. So now I would like to go a little bit more into leading the AI generation. So I've got some questions on that I've got some questions for you about that. So most leaders today come from Generation X and the millennials. They grew up differently, of course, using technology completely different than Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So business need to get ready. But how can the businesses make sure that they understand the new technology and how we can work together? Could you go into that a bit? That's possible.
Yeah, this is quite the interesting point, because we just had the last week the meeting, let's say the yearly kickoff with also one of our board management who is responsible, for our area of compliance. At the same time, he is responsible for HR, and we discuss also this topic because right now what happened, all this, let's say the generation which is now in the leadership roles, the average between, let's say, 50 to, let's say, 55, 57, right? So this generation in couple of years, maybe 5 years, let's put this way, and it's not only management but also the experts, they will go in retirement, because it was just after the war, all this boom. And already many companies, and at least in Germany also, just last days also, even on the government level, there is a big issue that all this big amount of knowledge will be gone because people will go in retirement. Means that the new generation comes, and we shouldn't forget about very rapid technological development, right? Because the topic with generation was always in the history of humanity, right? We always had the generational clash and so on. But nowadays, we never had this technological rapid development which we are facing. And today, I have to say that we have really big issue with the talents, because many people, they, especially after Corona, from one hand side, we start to value this life and work balance, right? We're working from home, we can have different opportunities. From another hand side, people said, okay, why should I kind of stress myself, right? In a certain extent. I was personally told by several people from my team, they said, Ekaterina, you know, I don't want to have your job. Please don't get like straight to my face. Please don't get me wrong, but when we hear the topics you're talking and stuff, it's stressful for us, you know. We don't want to, you know, be all the time still, you know, super and so on. We want to work our 35 hours, and we want just, you know, to have different life, which is fine, which is, it's brilliant. I find it's brilliant because now this generation, they do care about the mental health more than even to say, I mean, I'm not so far from this generation, Z, etc. But this is what we see, that we have less talents and less people wanting to join a certain league in the company to lead it. So it means that we really need to prepare the companies for the new types of experts, new types of leaders, because there is no command and control anymore. People are not accepting their want to see the leaders on the eye level, you know, they want to work together, they want to collaborate, etc. And this is for us, frankly speaking, really the big challenge. And this year in our company, we also starting more, let's say, straightforward, more structured way of the talent management, like really plan that, because we know that certain leaders and experts, like key leaders and key experts today, they will be gone, and how we replace this kind of people. So this is a big issue. And I think that now companies start to realize it more and more.
It sounds like humongous issue, because also when you're just saying it's the generations are so far apart from each other with the way of thinking. So yes, it's very beneficial, of course, that the newer generations are more into mental health, and they are very eager to have a work-life balance. That's great. But how does that then work together with the older generations who have a completely different mentality? And that needs to sort of start interlinking, right? Because that needs to work together in order to hand over all. How do you suggest on those generations working together and actually understanding each other the best?
I think it's a good question. I think from one hand side, we have to here understand this topic of generation. Another point is the technological development that we're facing right now. You wake up in the morning, there will be new technology, you know, like the ChatGPT AI. I mean, last only 2 years, it's booming, because we do have, I mean, it's not only okay because we have older generation, we have the brilliant also people in the different age category who are fantastic and who are catching up and moving these topics, right? So it's also topic of the mindset. What we at least, because in the end of the day, I guess we need somehow to bring this together, because there is no other way how can we do it. What we at least do, and what also I'm trying to do from my side, because I'm in between, right? So I'm not this generation Z, and I'm not the generation who go on retirement. So I'm literally in between, because I'm catching the both era, right? In this case. And I feel that it's also part of my job a bit to connect, because I can understand both. I can understand the world when it was the cassettes, and I can understand the world where it's totally digital. So at least what we also are trying, bring more and more, first of all, is topic of mentoring. Yeah, exactly. So that we have the, let's say, kind of the older generation, let's put this way, who are open, work more closely with the young generation, you know, even on the board level. So, and I think it goes in the both way, because let's say the older generation, let's say, they are trying to learn new things, and other way around, they're teaching the younger generation probably to bring the topics more on the high level, explaining it easier, you know, not, let's say, especially technical terms, to the non-technical people. So this is actually works quite well, and we're trying to promote it even more. Another part also is to having this part of the leadership programs as well. You know, how do we prepare leaders not only on those communication skills, how to hire, but how actually can I work in the team? Imagine if I have team 50 plus, and actually I do have, that's exactly in my teams. I have 50 plus, 55, and I have people who are 25. You know, it's totally different energy. But how do I bring that? It's topical about the conflict management. You know, one said, okay, we have to be more structured, take more time. Other said, okay, come on, let's do it faster. And we can use whatever AI, ChatGPT, and so on. And also they teach the let's say the younger generation exactly this, you know, analytical view, because they build a business without ChatGPT, but they use the analytical skills, the risk management approach, especially in our area when it comes to the compliance, cybersecurity. We cannot just blindly trust the information. We have to check it. And that's exactly when it comes this closer collaboration, and also to prepare exactly the mindset of the people that, okay, to be more tolerant and to be open for that. Yeah. So this is at least my perspective. The next 10 years will be one of the key points. Exactly how do we retain the talents? How do we ensure that all this knowledge that have been in the organization are passed over?
Yeah, exactly.
And also, how do we prepare also our products for that? You know, so this is also something that is this in our agenda, but I think we have to do more about that. So we are currently discussing what else can we do to, you know, boost this transition better for the company.
Yeah, interesting. And I think actually you're now in the most difficult time, because what's happening now is going to be happening a lot in the future decades to come. But the difference will be less because we're aware of the big changes now. But this now, at this, you're starting at the beginning phase of the digital transformation, because who would have known 15 years ago that IT will become so, like, we didn't know. Who would have known a year ago that you could type something in ChatGPT and get an answer? So it's going very, very crazy quick. And coming back to the generation of now, we all know, let's be honest, I have to include myself. I'm not a teenager anymore, but I do want to almost include myself in that part, that teenagers spend a lot of time online. They're 24/7, live in their phone. But they might not actually know the risks of privacy, of what's going on. And the parents, do parents actually know what's going on there? And do they know how to discuss this with their children? So could you maybe give us some tips and tricks on how to approach that? And what is actually, what don't we know? Because I assume you will know more about it. What do we need to know as parents to make sure our kids or our families are safe?
Yeah, this is actually directly to my heart, because I think I can talk hours about that. So I'm because there are a lot of questions there.
Yes.
So let's maybe slice that, because, you know, as I said, why it goes directly to my heart. So first of all, because of course I'm the mom, right? And my kids are the digital natives. They're born digital natives. And plus, you know, of course, I work in the area of privacy and cybersecurity. And for me, this is kind of, you know, the area, of course, I see probably more topics than, let's say, the average parent who probably is not related to IT. And the last couple of years, I start to do, you know, more research on that area, because that's exactly linked to this. Because one day I ask myself, okay, which legacy I will leave after I'm not in this world, and how I prepare, at least as much as possible, the world for my girls, because they're the girls. So I don't want them to face the same obstacles that I face or I'm still facing today, because there are not so many, at least in our area, women, you know, working in this tech environment. And that in 20 years, when they're in the workforce, I mean, we don't have this bloody discussion, women, men, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. So that was kind of my trigger, you know, what you think, okay, what do I do in this life? So, and that's why when I started to do more research and said, okay, what can I do, what our company can do in this regard? So I think today what we see is that it's, again, we're in between. Right. So the parents who are, let's say, kids right now, the kids we're talking about, I don't know, the newborn until, let's say, 18, right? This age. This is what we said. The parents of those kids, they are not born in the digital environment. Correct. Okay. So they grew up again with the cassettes. They grew up playing outside. They spend a lot of time outside, but now their kids in a different environment. Another question, okay, how do I handle that? So it means number one is that parents today, they don't have so much information about IT related stuff. Okay, good if you work in the IT environment, but let's talk about the average. Not everybody works in that. Number two, also the AI. We hear it a lot, was like, oh, kids in AI, what do we do? And so on. So even for us, I can tell you, for me as an expert, when this topic came, we also needed to learn that, because we didn't know what is AI. So we needed to learn. And the same, imagine if the extraordinary people can do that, but ordinary people said, okay, but what does it mean? What do I do with AI? So parents even don't know by themselves. what we see as well, that educational system in most of the countries is not ready for that, because still educational system is done 30 years ago. We start to see first insights. Maybe in the private schools we can see more, but in the governmental schools, it's still, we don't have any lessons, like curriculum to preparing the kids. So this is number 3. Number 4, which you probably massively see, is the topic of coding. I think if you open and you write whatever digital, the first thing that you can see is, okay, teach your child to do coding, the coding school, and so on. So, and here comes the thing. Imagine you said, okay, I open as a coding, fantastic. I think I send my child there. So the child, usually the age where they send from 5 to 7, starting point. Yeah. So this is the average age. So 7-year-old child is sitting in front of the computer and doing coding. A, without person, means the parent understanding what all this about because it's just cool. B, the child is 5 to 7-year-old, okay, maybe 8, still doesn't know any basics about the technology, but he or she already coding. Of course, they teach him A, B, C, D, how to do it. And then, and this is resulting on that we simply do not, kind of developing it further, because we give only one part, but it should somehow be, the flow. Yeah. So here comes, let's say that I said my ecosystem, what I came, everything starts not with a child. We don't need to teach at first the child about the digital literacy, about the coding. No, it starts with the family, the parents. So first we have to educate the parents about the good sides of the AI, about the digital thing, that you can use it for good, right? You can use it, to learn something out of it. You can use it even to together as a family to do something. It might be, for example, for kids with autism, there are those robots assistant, for example, right? So you kind of integrate in your life. So, but you have to educate the parents how to deal with this. So then number 2 is the kids. So this is the next part of the ecosystem. Then you have to teach the kids, but please don't send them to the coding school. Start to explain from the early ages, what is digital? Phone. Everybody has a phone, right? Most of the time we spend here. What this about? What do we need that? My daughter just recently said, Mom, my friend, she's now at 6-year-old. She got the phone. Can you buy me the phone? I said, okay, what are you going to do with the phone? We had the discussion, because I need to understand. She's like, oh, but I also want to have it. So talk to your child. Why? Explain, basic things. And that's exactly, you need to have certain curriculum to explain the child about those digital activities. What is internet? How is it connected and not? And start to explain it, step by step. And only that, when there is certain platform, where there is certain mental understanding, you need to send the child to the coding school, if there is a capabilities even. And then the third pillar of the ecosystem is the employer, because those kids, they're future employees. And especially, of course, with all these technologies, there will be new generation of employees. Of course, they will have different perspective, but that's exactly what we discussed in the beginning. How do we prepare the companies for this new employees, in the future? And then again, imagine, so those kids, they will become employees, and at certain moment of time, they will become who? Parents again. So this is like a circle. But those kids who are growing right now, they will not have issue with digital activities, because all kids in, let's say, 30 years will have a different background. So that's why I let's say, came up with this let's say, ecosystem, family, parents first, the kids and the employer. And that's why, I also starting to do actually more and more activities, and also, giving also certain speeches, webinars, and saying, guys, let's start with the parents, let's start with the community, to address it to the parents, and then of course to put it in the educational system as well. So try to work on this curriculum and jointly, because of course we can't expect right now that now all of a sudden the teachers in the school who've been teaching the last 20 years come up with new curriculum.
Correct.
They can't, because they also don't have the knowledge. So it means that people like us, who are more closer to that need to give the input and work together with educational system. At Bosch, for example, we have one initiative where we call it in German Wissenfabrik, where we work with different, like a know-how fabric or the factory, where we try to collaborate also with the schools and with different companies, you know, to give certain expertises to the kids in the school. But this is, let's say, high level, you know, this is not the high level to do that. I strongly believe, and that's why I'm talking and I'm, you know, standing behind it also in my company, that we can do more as a company to prepare it, but at the same time also as a, you know, the humans to do more. And that's why, I mean, actually call for action. If you are the parent, start to educate yourself first and to see what is good, what is not, because there are also risks related to certain things as well. Yeah, so that's, I mean, if I kind of summarize that, but as I said, I can talk hours about
Yeah,
that.
no, and I also a lot of questions. So thank you so much. I think that's in summary a very clear vision, and I think it's key, like you said, it's almost a scream towards the people, like, please educate yourself, please dive into what is internet about, because there's a big number of parents that is posting their children, for example, every single day online, and I have to say, in my own family, my sister posts her children on her Instagram and her Facebook, and that might have consequences. So what would you advise parents who are posting everything about their children online? Would you say go for that, or would you say, hey, be careful and educate yourself on the levels on it? Or what kind of advice would you give to parents about that and families to keep it safe?
Yeah, this is a fantastic question, because I think nowadays as a parent, we're always proud of our kids. And we, of course, it's a
Yeah.
human being. We want to show, especially nowadays with social media, if we have somebody far away that we have a kids, if there is any achievements, where we, of course, wants to share it. But I would like to put it a bit from the different perspective when we talk about the AI, since, you know, we work a lot and we see a lot of the cyber criminals, you know, in this area. And actually, one of the probably the video that I would recommend to watch our audience, it's from the telecom, the T-Mobile company, regarding, it's called Ella. Maybe you can share it with the participants.
I will. Nachrit from Ella, yes.
Yeah, it's a brilliant video, exactly showing the small girl and the parents who were posting the photos. I mean, I think actually getting even goosebumps talking about that, and how the cyber criminals are using that. Because, I mean, we all hear about the deep fakes right now, right? So about that you can, you know, mimic the faces, you can mimic also the speech, etc. But we do not talk about the kids, because there is a big industry of the porno for the kids. Again, we do not talk about that. I haven't seen anybody publicly talking about that.
Correct.
There's a huge industry of people who are mentally, I call them sick. And what we see today, that by using the AI technologies, the huge, I mean, if you're interested, you can Google, everything is, I mean, you can read about that. A lot of, you know, the photos of the kids are taken, and then basically the speeches and the voices you can, you know, program such a way that it's then in the end you have certain videos with the porno from your kids. And can you imagine that goes publicly? So it doesn't mean that, and some of them, they really looks like true.
So absolutely, and
so
it's actually real lives.
It's such a horrible thing,
Yeah.
you know, because especially the if I see the pictures of the parents who are posting, you know, the kids naked, you know, on the beach, etc. So please don't do that. First, also because you don't have a consent from your child, it's already per person, you know. Honestly, we had even the cases in Europe, in Austria, where 18-year-old the daughter, she sued her parents because she saw that they've been posting the pictures of her, and she said, you violate my privacy. I mean, that's probably extreme case, but I think probably also the child in the age of 14, 15 doesn't want to find out the history of Instagram pictures of her and herself in the bus or the naked or whatever. So, and these kind of things, just be mindful what you're posting. It's okay maybe to post some pictures, you know, that you don't see the face of the child. For sure, no go with the naked pictures, you know, maybe the back or whatever, you know, if you want somehow to share it. But don't disclose this information. Don't disclose any locations, because we're talking about the kidnapping stuff and so on. We had even the cases, I can tell you, where, because we, of course, we got in a lot of requests from the police, where I was like, you know, because we get different cases, and last year was the case when it was the sexual harassment of the child, and police was reaching out to us because there was some video made of our Bosch product. Can you imagine that? And then they've been searching through this, let's say, the number of the product, you know, who was buying that, you know. So there was the criminal investigations, and I was like, okay, I mean, that you can imagine, you know. And I was like, oh my gosh, so it was a sexual harassment of the child, and by chance the Bosch product was on the video, and now they're trying to find out, you know, whatever things. So those kind of things, this is what I, you know, I face in my job, you know, one part of it. But that's very sensitive topic. Yeah, so that's why AI can also harm. AI can harm actually the also the mental condition of our child, because scientifically proved that 90% of the brain of the child formed by the age of 5, and the full development is done by the age of 8, you know, the fundamental things. So, and you imagine that in this age, from the, let's say, until 5 and latest by 8, the brain is very sensitive perceiving information, especially when it comes to the stress situations. And imagine that's exactly the age as a parent that we need kind of to have a safe environment and put all the values, instead of just putting the child in front of the TV and watching I don't know what, this kind of stuff. So just be mindful about that the first year is the most crucial thing in the development of the brain of the child. And of course, I think the next years we will see more and more areas when it comes to the sensitizing the risks and threats of AI, not only the positive thing. And also now, at least in the European level, soon we expect the new regulation. It's called AI Act, exactly to formalize how the AI providers should, you know, develop the product. And one of the area which, because I also, of course, follow the, you know, from the European side, we also have people sitting, you know, is in the Brussels. That one of the part which I find very good, that it should be that there shouldn't be any pictures, any, you know, the videos or anything kids related. Even today, I was testing some of the AI apps. If you write, okay, please create me the picture of the child, blah, 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 you know, you write the text, the script. And for some of them, which was written that as soon as they see the word kids, child, they said, we are not allowed to do that. So this is basically what will be part of the new regulation as well. So that for these new AI solutions, we should also minimize any content related to kids, exactly to minimize that. So I'm really, really looking forward to that, so that we can also regulate it on the governmental level.
Absolutely. And just speaking about the government, I think you've given a very good summary of how important it is to actually understand what's going on also with your children. But I also think, like you said, not everyone is in IT. A lot of parents don't even know what AI is. And because they are not hearing any warnings from the government, they assume it's all fine. But I also want to highlight, and maybe you can even add on to that, AI has developed so quickly that the government, unfortunately, hasn't been able to keep up. They're coming back now, but because the government isn't mentioning something, doesn't mean you need to take full responsibility of yourself and your children. And I personally want to advise every parent, yes, the government knows things, but within IT, it's developing on such a level, the government can never keep up. So we as humans need to take responsibility for ourselves. Do you agree with that, or am I saying something wrong in that sense? Because I truly believe.
It's very well stated, because, and that's again what I was stating previously, you know. Yeah. Doesn't matter in which area, because today all the technology that's come in every area, and today almost every branch of the business is using AI, some less, some more, but still it's everywhere right now. That's why, again, regardless, do you have kids or not, try to educate yourself minimum, understand what is AI, you know, what is the difference between the machine learning, generative AI, this kind of stuff, what all this about, what is our risk related to that. So this is, let's say, the minimum what I invite everybody, at least, instead of, you know, scrolling maybe some whatever Instagram and Facebook stuff, just instead maybe search exactly, the people, the key leaders or key expert in this area, at least to kind of inform yourself. I don't say that you have to be the expert, but at least inform yourself. When it comes to this topic, the parenting and the kids, frankly speaking, now if I look back, I did a lot of mistakes. Now I'm sitting here saying, okay, you have to do this and this, but I did a lot of mistakes, and I have my learnings as well, because when my first daughter was born, you already know that was quite a, also the change for me. I thought, okay, it's good. What is the risk? So I don't see so much risk. And I was one of those moms who were giving her phone when she was eating. I was one of the moms is okay, yeah, I have to do this stuff. I put her in front of TV and I just, give her to watch this kind of things. And of course I didn't talk about any whatever teaching her things. So I did a lot of mistakes as well, which end up on having the tantrums, because as soon as I was taking the phone, it was screaming and this kind of stuff. I realized we have not so much way of eating. Because without phone she didn't want to eat, and it was only pasta and whatever, and no any vegetables. So I also actually needed and educate myself in terms of also the nutrition and stuff. But this first 2 to 3 years, I honestly have not realized that which mistakes I did. But thanks God, it was approximately the third year when I said, oh, stop, that it cannot go like that, because it influences your family situation and stuff. You always stress. And that was the moment for me, start to think different. Again, with the second child, I do it, of course, totally different, because and maybe some practical hints as well, but how you can kind of, navigate between do not use the advantage of the technologies and AI, and also having still the healthy habits in life, especially if you have kids. As I said, first of all is talk about this in the family. Talk about this. Why do we use the phone? Is it good or not? The simple things like, oh, what do you do with this technology? What do you do it work, etc. So you need to kind of start to fostering this discussion with your partner and then with the kids. Number two, what I also recommend is start reading the books, and I even wrote some of them. So for example, my youngest, 2-year-old, she likes it's called Online Safety for Kids. It's a fantastic book about the robot, explaining what is the harm and using, and how if we're connected to internet, there is a
So
risk.
you already speak with your daughters on this age about
Of course.
Great.
So there is a book, for example, also how to navigate, and there is a fantastic book also. It's called Trolls Things, about how like a cyberbullying.
Amazing.
So both how they did the photo. You can see the both of them are looking in the photo. And so that's about the cyberbullying, basically the topic. So I read that books because it's very easy. It's the kids' books, but already explaining that what is good or what is not about this kind of stuff, And they love that. They love the books because it's funny. And that's another thing, that probably also try to buy these books, try to read these books also, that they get familiar. Another tip, which was at least again working in our family very well, is the schedule, because we also agreed that we need certain schedule, and I did it together with my oldest daughter, because we did we take piece of paper and we did the schedule of the day, where we said, okay, look, after we come home, before we prepare dinner, we have 30 minutes time for the phone, usually TV, but we will watch only educational programs, So, and then we said 2 times a week we have a detox. So usually it's Wednesday and Saturday. We said no. And we put it on the fridge. Probably most of us has kind of, things that we put on the fridge. So it means that she did it on her own, and she knows the schedule, So, and in this, let's say next time when I said, okay, look, you have 30 minutes, then she's like, okay, I have 30 minutes, because she
knows.
And that's it. And there is no more tantrums anymore. So this is also something that I recommend. And another thing, if you follow, you have to follow as well. Because then I remember one evening my husband was, putting her at home to sleep. She was already falling asleep, and he started to scroll on the phone. She came to me next morning, and she's like, Mom, that instead of talking to me, he was scrolling the phone. I was like, I thought you were sleeping. No, I was not sleeping. So, and again, was something that we needed to discuss with my husband, because of course she sees that. So we explained that, okay, Daddy was looking something. Indeed, he was looking something, he needed. But you have to follow this as well, right? So if it's no time for phones, then you really spend time as a family together, which required, you remember I said in the beginning, extra mile, because I know how busy we are. But in this case, it's really, do I want my child to have values, having the time with the friends, going outside? We said, okay, we have to go more, swimming pool together, those kind of things. So this is at least some practical things that I recommend a bit to review as a family and start a bit earlier, exactly with these basics. And only once the mentally you see child is ready and understands, is it good or is it bad, what can I do, then send them to the coding school, but not start with the coding school and then they have no background whatsoever.
They first need to understand exactly what the risks are, etc., before they go into that. Amazing. You actually already answered my last question, because my last question was actually, can you give some examples? But you've already given some very clear examples. And like you mentioned before, we don't really discuss these horrendous topics a lot in the world. And I think also because they're uncomfortable topics. So for example, talking about child porn, etc. What can you advise everyone watching that they can do themselves, that at least that can add value to the bigger picture? Because for example, just to be transparent, I might now think I can't do anything. I can't add value in this situation because I'm not in that field. But I believe I could. But could you give us a tip? Like where can we add value?
I think what you said, that nowadays we're afraid to talk about that as a let's say people, as parents, because again, we grew up in different time. I mean, we talk probably, I gave you examples for the smaller kids, but there are kids who are the teenagers. And when I did my research, I was shocked because an average teenage spends up to 9 hours daily on the phone, doing whatever we don't know. And if you look statistically, over the last years, UNICEF also reported the high rate of the suicide among teenagers, right? Because exactly there is a very high pressure from the social media to look like that, I'm thin, I am fat, I have, I don't know, different skin and so on. And that ends up of this topic of the cyberbullying, because I mean, we all had the bullying in kids, right? There was somebody who has a cool shirt or cool boots in the school. We had all of that. There always was this kind of stuff. But nowadays it's even more tragic because we have the phones, and basically just with a simple video, you can do even more harm on that regard. That's why, number one, we shouldn't be afraid as a people, as a parents, to talk about that. And the most important is to again explain your child that these things exist. It might be that your child faced that, might be not, but at least child A knows about that, B, he or she is prepared. Number three is somehow to recognize this situation, because as you can see, the child is spending more time on the phone. You can see the mood is changing and stuff. You need to start to speak about that, right, in the end of the day. And try really to find out, okay, what is the root cause about this? And again, educate the parents to talk about that. It's okay to talk about that in the high school. Maybe certain group of the boys or girls would require you to show certain parts of your body, right? Or to send this video. It is a reality, and speak about that with your child about that and explain what you can do, what you cannot do about this. So don't be afraid. But again, nobody is educating parents to speak about that, because when even I grew up, nobody openly was speaking about that. My parents never spoke about this. So and that's really something that don't underestimate these learnings on the early stages. Don't be afraid to speak openly with your child. I know it's very uncomfortable in the beginning, but don't forget that if you miss this moment, you might lose your child. You might lose your daughter or the son because somebody just very harmful and can do something bad to your child. Better to start now instead of to be to regret in the future. So that's probably the thing. If I'm looking about more, let's say, younger, sorry, the older kids in this regard. And just to sum it up, I think the most important is reflect, because that's what we discussed. I really want every parent just start to think about that, because when I meet some parents, colleagues, experts, and somehow we touch this topic, afterwards I usually receive feedback, Oh, I never thought about that. Oh, I was not aware about that, you know? So just think that technologies bring good stuff. Absolutely, we can't avoid that. But on the other hand side, there are certain risks that we can just, eliminate, that might harm our family, our kids, by just educating ourselves, raising these topics in the community. And if you have, for example, somebody that working in the educational system, if somebody in your company has the foundation, for example, feel free to reach out to me, right? That could be something that we can work together between the companies, in this regards. Join programs, if you said, okay, look, this is interesting topic, I want more parents to hear about that, right? Again, to reach out, let's connect, because more we speak about that, more parents start to be cautious about the things, better community and better future we create for our society in the end of the day.
Absolutely brilliant summarized. Now, I also want to quickly highlight that please do reach out to you if for anyone if they have any questions or want to see what they can do. And also, just on the last side note, I wanted to say, please don't, as parents, please don't be naive thinking it might not happen to my child, because correct, hopefully nothing happens to your child, but by educating yourself, educating your children will be also educating actually the bullies who are trying something, because the more you know, the stronger you are in your position. Same with, I was brought up, please don't follow a man who likes to cuddle with a puppy or wants to give you an ice cream or sweets. So never go into the van of an ice cream guy. It's the same element, but now it's more towards IT. So I think we need to be very proactive and speak up about that and not be afraid of it. I could literally continue for hours, but unfortunately we're overrun a little bit. So I'm going to thank you very much for this, for attending this webinar. And again, to everyone, please do feel free to reach out to Katrina if you've got any questions, or reach out to me and I can always put you in touch with her, of course. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Caroline, and thank you everybody for joining the session. Have a great day.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.